what Dr. Asher in his presentation is going to talk about what the grant covers, and then he's also going to talk about the Fulbright application and Fulbright announcement advertisement, which is already out, and the deadline is April the 12th this year. Yeah. Over to you, Dr. Asher.
Thank you, Farasat. Asher, before we start, Gohar, could we do a quick polling to find out how many of our participants have already started working on their Fulbright application? That will give us an idea. Please do fill this.
There are polling, ma'am.
Ji. Can you see the poll? Dear faculty, can you see the poll? Yes. Please, that are you working? Have you started working on your application form? Is very important for us to know, because this session is basically for those of you that have worked on their application and are adding finishing touches to it. It is not for those of you that have actually are yet thinking about. People, faculty, you should start thinking about Fulbright application a year in advance, because the proposal carries immense value. And if you've still not started working on it, then this is perhaps not the right amount of time you're giving to. And I see that 15 have responded, the other 15 haven't. And you are saying that we have not started working on it, and that's worrisome. This is not an introductory session to Fulbright. That took place a month ago and was done by the International Education Office and the Prometric Center. They did it. Can't see the poll, P or Gohar. I do not know why, Saima, you can't see the poll.
It's shared, yeah. I can see it on both.
Will you share the link on the also on the chat? They can open it in the chat. Okay. Always do it also in the chat. Saima, please see if you can open the chat and start working on the document. We will close it because the answer is that we have the wrong audience, perhaps. We did make it very clear in our write-up that this is for those of you that have filled your application form and are looking for the final tips and improvements. This is not a startup session. So the 15 that have responded show that you have still not started work. So this session probably is not as applicable as it should be. I'm going to share results. Saima, could you get the poll?
Ma'am, I'm unable to share it in the chat.
Okay, but she is not. She can't see the poll. It is POLL poll. Saima, I apologize for correcting you. Pole is the North Pole and the South Pole and the Javelin pole, throw pole. This is yes. Okay. She's not working on it right now. So we are done with this. We are sharing the results, and 15 of you are not working on your application. Okay, Ji, Asher, over to you. Sorry for the interception.
Dr. Asher, can you hear us?
Asher ने join तो किया था. हाँ. Asher,
please
unmute yourself.
Somebody needs to unmute Dr. Asher.
I did, ma'am. I did. He's the co-host.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am.
Ji.
Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to talk about what the Fulbright Scholarship covers. So this scholarship covers the cost of your graduate studies in the US universities, and they will pay the tuition fee, whatever it is. They will pay for the textbooks, and also they will pay for your airfare, and the selected candidates will be given a living stipend, and that living stipend is adjusted according to the cost of living in different states. Also, the selected candidates will be eligible to get the health insurance. health insurance is very much costly in the US. So it is a great benefit having a health insurance policy.
Ashar, I think I would like you to talk more about the substantive part, not the. I think Firasat talked about this. So we should move ahead to other something that applicants need to know. I think Firasat covered these points already.
Okay, so and also they will assist with the visa process and about the application for PhD and MS Fulbright scholarships are open, and the deadline for that is April 12th. And all the eligibility criteria, like what are the requirements for the education, are given in the advertisement. And for the application process, you should have your GRE score. So the application requires you to show your GRE score. And another important thing about the application process is the Fulbright Commission encourages the women and people with disabilities and people related to the minority groups. So that are the main points about this advertisement. And the other thing is, so may I talk about this also? Dr. Sharon will
Dr. Sharon
brief about that.
Thank you, Dr. Asher. We'll now pass it on to Dr. Sharon, who is going to talk about Fulbright eligibility and Fulbright requirements.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. This is Sharon Hanuk. It's a pleasure talking about Fulbright and its requirements. So my role today is to talk about PhD program, its eligibility and requirements. But before I go there, I would like to bring attention to the advertisement, because this has been observed. I mean, a lot of people contacted me over the past years, and what I have observed is that they don't read the advertisement thoroughly. While you are preparing for your application, I greatly encourage that please go through the advertisement. Its advertisement, though it's a single pager, very brief, but it carries what Fulbright really want you to be eligible for. So certainly it talks about all subjects except clinical medicine. But if you look at this year's advertisement, their focus is towards Firasat, if you can go to the previous slide and zoom it up a little, I would like to talk about the eligibility there from the advertisement.
Yeah, sure. Gohar, can you please go to the previous slide?
Yeah. Can you please zoom this up a little? It's right panel of this advertisement is extremely important. So it talks about that all disciplines are eligible except clinical medicines. Yeah, that's what is required. But you see where the preference lies. People in the fields of energy, water, agriculture, health, education, environment, and climate change are strongly encouraged to apply. This is something that's key. If I would like to apply, I would like to develop my application around these areas. That will increase the probability of my application being accepted and myself getting the Fulbright scholarship. So please make sure that whatever you're doing, if you belong to these areas of research, at least for PhD, that's something you're going to have a better edge of getting the Fulbright scholarship. Then for eligible master's applicants, you will have to have a 4-year bachelor's degree or something equivalent. That is 16 years of formal education. And for PhD applicants, it's master's or MPhil or companion degree that comprise of 18 years of formal education. Yeah, GRE is the must thing. that you have to write the GRE exam. Yes, minimum score for verbal section is 138, and for quantitative, it is 136. If you can go to the next slide, Gohar, that would be helpful, please. Gohar, can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, here. So for quantitative, it's 136. TOEFL is a must. Though many universities nowadays in the US, there's a tendency that they don't require GRE, but you know, a significant number of universities still require GRE for their graduate programs. So Fulbright has kept this restriction still intact, that you have to have a GRE done. I understand our brown people mentality that we wait until the last moment to prepare for GRE, to prepare for other documents in the Fulbright application. But please know this, I encourage people to spend significant amount of time preparing for GRE. It is a good idea. If you are into the quantitative field, certainly you want to spend lesser time on the quantitative part, and if you are in the humanities and social sciences, you certainly would like to spend more time on the verbal part. But please know this, both parts are equally important. Don't ever think that if you overperform in verbal and not perform in quantitative, you still will be accepted. Please know this, GRE is not only the measure of how much you know about your own subject, but it's more about how much all-rounder you are. And as we all are working at FC College, and we already understand the importance of liberal arts and how it's very important to have the good background in sciences as well as humanities and social sciences. So that's the purpose of GRE as well, and that's the purpose of education in the US as well. So that's why GRE is the must, and please prepare for both equally. Do not overestimate yourself on one thing and underestimate on yourself on other thing, but keep a good balance between both. For TOEFL, when people prepare for TOEFL, I always encourage people, yes, some people I do know, they go for academies, they go for, self-preparation. I prefer doing self-preparation, but for GRE and TOEFL, I highly encourage people to please take some mock tests. More mock tests, online mock tests you're going to take, better you're going to perform on the day of your exam, on the day of your, TOEFL or GRE exams. Why? Because they both are time constrained. They are time constraints. So a lot of time, if we haven't practiced it well in the mock exams, we tend to miss a lot of part of TOEFL or a lot of part of GRE. And so I have seen many people underperform if they are not very well prepared. Let's go to the next slide. Now, I'll talk about the application. So application form is very important. Please know this. Fulbright is notorious because they require a lot of documentation, and you need a lot of patience working with Fulbright. Don't expect that you have to submit a piece of paper and you will be done. No, it's not a piece of paper. If they start early, you would know this. If by grace of God you get the Fulbright scholarship, your documentation is going to stay there for next 4 or 5 years. So you have to be very patient with Fulbright. Yes, they require documentation, but they facilitate you in all the possible ways. So sometimes it sounds cumbersome to have a lot of documentation done with Fulbright, but I personally think they take care of everything. So it's not a burden. It's something that is required, and you have to do it. Even if you do it on personal basis, you have to do the similar amount of documentation. It just, the Fulbright facilitates it quite a lot. Application form, please try to prepare it as early as possible. I was surprised when I hear the results of the poll that all 100% haven't even started on their application. Please make sure you start it today. Even if you can do it now, please start working it right now. It's a long process. It requires a lot of time, a lot of revisions, a lot of discussions, a lot of thinking. So if you start your application right now, please do it. And once you have your application done for Fulbright, your application is ready to be submitted directly to the universities as well. So it's a very important document that's going to give a very good glimpse to the prospective research supervisors, prospective recruiters, admissions committees in the universities to look into you without really seeing you and without really talking to you. So please make it a very comprehensive document and spend some significant amount of time. 3 reference letters are required, very important documents. Reference letters, you want to strategize who should be your referees. Don't take all referees from your employer. Don't take all references from your teachers. Don't take all references from the people of the same category. You have to diversify who writes recommendation, because your recommendations are going to give a different dimensions to your personality. So if you are getting 3 reference letter, I personally would do 1 reference letter from my employer, maybe your immediate boss, 1 reference letter from your colleague, and if you have already done some research, then 1 reference letter from your supervisor. All 3 will give a different perspective to your personality, and that is something that's going to contribute a lot towards the admission committee to know you. Please do not forget to submit your GRE score report to the Fulbright. I have came across some instances where people forget to do so, and then they have to pay a significant amount of money. And certainly it's in the dollars, and dollars are, dollar price is skyrocketing in rupees now. So you really want to keep it in mind that once you finish your GRE exam, you submit your score to USCFP or the required organization. Please do some research and find out the code for Fulbright, or if you are at the Prometric Center, ask them that you want to submit it for Fulbright, so they will give you the codes to the universities as well as Fulbright, that how you submit your scores. But please do not ignore that. That's very important. And you will certainly get an e-transcript, e-score report for your GRE that you can do it later as well, or you can keep it for your record. But most of the organization, they require that you submit your GRE scores through ETS. Your scanned transcripts are extremely important. I do understand at Pakistan we do have HEC does all this process. Recently, I've heard that they made it very quick. You don't have to go to HEC office; they do it online. So you submit it through TCS probably, but please look into it. I haven't done it recently, so I have no clue right now that what's the most recent process. But for HEC, attestation is important. But if it's not HEC, from issuing authority, let's say if you're a Formanite, then it will be probably academic office at FC College or registrar's office that will attest your transcripts. Very important document. Do not submit without attestation. They won't be entertained. Similarly, you have this link right here given to you where you submit your complete application. And let's go to the next slide, which is extremely important. A lot of people have come to me asking about these questions about research objective, personal statement, keeping Fulbright's mission in mind. So please know this. Your research objectives, at least for US, what I know, they matters a lot. But for Fulbright, it should be aligned with the Fulbright's mission. It should be aligned with the Fulbright preferences that I shared earlier.
I think so. There's a network problem. Dr. Sharoon, we can't hear you.
Oh, really? I'm not sure if FCC is this fine now?
Yeah, it's fine now.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay. Yeah. So research objectives is extremely important. So please make sure you spend significant amount of time on writing research objective. It's a technical document. It is a scientific document. So it should be scientifically written. Don't just make it as a plain document. Please make sure that research objective will give a good idea to for the PhD people, that what kind of research they want to do. But more importantly, for admission committee or Fulbright, I personally think that's going to help Fulbright or research committee, uh, you know, research committee see the way you write scientific documents. That is going to give you a glimpse to your writing style. So please be very careful while you write it. Personal statement, it's all about you. Be truthful. A lot of people make up the story. I personally think that's not a great idea. If you really want to write a personal statement, be truthful in all the application. Don't try to bluff anything. They are the smart people out there. You know, you will never know. They will come and investigate you at your house as well at the visa process. So even if they find out that you're not eligible, or you have lied on something, or you have made up something, even if you get a Fulbright, your visa gets rejected. So having Fulbright doesn't mean you have a guaranteed visa. I do know Fulbrighters, they've gotten Fulbright scholarship but never got visa. So you have to be very truthful in your personal statement. It should be your life story. It should be something that motivates you. It should be something that talks about your future goals. It should be something that aligns your life to your past life, your present life, with your future life. And how you have to be very careful blending the idea of that how US experience is going to help you to come back to Pakistan and serve here. Please know this. Fulbright mission and Fulbright expectation is that it's a cultural exchange program. If you are involved into the curricular activities, please highlight them. If you are a sportsman, please highlight them. That these are the plus points. If you are the president of a society, please highlight them. If you do a lot of volunteer work, please highlight that. These are the things that are equally important than as like your academic credentials. So they want a person who can fit into American culture. Not only fit into American culture, but tell Americans about Pakistani culture. It's a cultural exchange program. Do not forget this part always. Fulbright do not want you to go there and be a nerd. Yes, it's great. If you're a nerd, you can directly get admission to a university pretty easily. But Fulbright, yes, Fulbright appreciate nerds. Fulbright also appreciate all the geeks. They are great people. They're very polished minds. But Fulbright also wants a good cultural blend, a person who can tell people about what Pakistan really is. There's a lot of misconception. Fulbright is helping Pakistan to get out of these misconceptions. People to people contacts. That's what they want. So if you go there, talk about Pakistan, and they want to see in your personality, they want to see in your profile that will you be a good cultural ambassador of Pakistan in the US. So please make sure all that fits into your application, that highlights your cultural exchange program, cultural ambassadorship. Please highlight them and share it in your application. I think I'll stop here and we'll pass it on to Dr. Firasat. Thank you so much. We look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Dr. Sharoon. Do we have any questions for Dr. Sharoon or Dr. Asher? If not,
just a comment. There's a comment by Asher that bridging. Asher, now you are talking. This is what we wanted you to say. Bridging the connection between two nations is a key point of Fulbright scholarship. Exactly. What is the word count for both statements, Farhan? Any idea what is I think on the application they do mention the word count.
Yes, I think they mentioned on the applications.
Yeah,
and
so please pay attention.
Please know this. You're not there to write long essays. People get bored with the long essays. They don't want to. They lose the interest. You want to be as precise as you can, yet informative, and your personal statement and research objective should be interesting. It should something that just hold people into this whole document. As they read, they should just find an energy that, oh, I want to know more about this person. I want to talk more about this person. if you are able to bring this aspect into your personal statement or research objective, you got it.
Yeah. Age limit, Firasat, for this? I think they
Well,
specify it. Yeah.
I do not remember anything related to
About the
age limit.
Okay.
Sharoon, can you recall anything related to age limit?
No,
I don't think
application
there's
should
any age
share. I
limit.
don't think so. Yeah.
But obviously you can always go to Fulbright USCFP's website and they can explain. Please know this. Once your application is done, is submitted, you will be assigned a program officers, and there are program officers available on Fulbright. You can make some connections there with USCFP program officers. I think there's a way you can go to USCFP's website and make some, sign up there where they will assign you the program officers or some resource from the Fulbright USCFP's office, and they can guide you with all this documentation as well. I do remember, I mean, I'm talking like 13 years later. So I do know that at that time it was very facilitating, and obviously today it's going to be even more. But recently, I'm not sure how they do it, but
Yeah.
there's a way.
We're running out of time, Firasat. If you could continue, and then we can come back to Nazish, and then we'll take some questions after both of you are done. Ji.
Sure, thank you, Dr. Roxana. So for my part of presentation, I'm going to talk about the interview. So just to let you know that about the TOEFL exam, you do not need to take the TOEFL exam. The prerequisite for Fulbright is actually GRE. However, it's okay if you do not take TOEFL exam, because if you are shortlisted and if you are invited for the interview, then Fulbright will ask you to bring a proof of registration for TOEFL exam, which means that soon you are going to take TOEFL. They understand that it's an expensive exam. I mean, considering the exchange rate, there is a hefty amount that you have to pay, and same is the case for GRE as well. So GRE is also expensive, but for Fulbright, it's okay if you don't, I mean, at the time of your application, if you don't take TOEFL exam, it's okay. If you are shortlisted and if you are called for interview, then in that case, Fulbright will only ask you to bring proof of registration. And it's okay if by the time of the interview, if you still have not taken TOEFL, they just want proof of registration, which means you will be taking TOEFL very soon. As for Fulbright interview, a major, I think I would say most questions that Fulbright panel asks you, they come from your admission essays. And I usually ask this question from many people, that when we are writing our admission essays, and by admission essay, I mean your personal statement and your research objective. So people ask me this question, so do we write keeping in view Fulbright, or do we write keeping in view the graduate school committee? So I think when you are working on your admission essays, you should write keeping in view Fulbright program, because Fulbright has a really strong placement division. And they also they work with IIE, which is International Institute of Education, that administers Fulbright in the US on behalf of Fulbright Commission. They have experts there who many of you may have this question, that who is going to be in interview panel. So the interview panel for Fulbright usually comprises of 4 to 5 people. So 2 or 3 can be Americans and 2 or 3 can be Pakistanis. For Pakistanis, the people who studied in the US. Here, I would like to tell you that their review process, especially for Fulbright application and especially for your admission essays, their review process is really, really strong and really robust. So never go unprepared for Fulbright interview, because the panel is already very prepared for you. When they go through the review process and when they are shortlisting candidates for interview, they make notes and they write questions as well. So here you want to be fully prepared, especially for your admission essays. And most questions they ask Fulbright panel, that most questions they ask you questions from your admission essays, whatever you have written for your Fulbright application. So the first point that I have written on my slide is be yourself. Just like Dr. Sharoon just said that be truthful, be original, and be honest. Do not try to fake anything during your interview. So you should be, number two is you should be clear about your research objectives. Like I said earlier, that most of the time they ask you questions from what you have written about your research objectives. One good thing about Fulbright is they don't ask you for a fully developed PhD proposal. They understand that until and unless you begin your PhD, or you have, I mean, you at this stage, you are maybe not ready to talk about your proposal. However, you should be very clear to talk about your research objectives and your future goals and area of interest or area of expertise that you want to develop during your study in the US. The third bullet that I have here is do not impress with your knowledge of the field. So it's quite likely that in Fulbright panel, they don't have any expert from your area or from your field. So do not try to impress with jargons, and just make it simple, and try to explain what you are going to do, and try to be realistic here. And then fourth point is focus on how your degree in the US may bring development in Pakistan. Now, this point is really important, and I particularly wanted to talk about it. From my experience, a couple years ago, I was one of the Fulbright interview panelists, and I remember there was a candidate, and her research objectives were really thorough and carefully thought through, and the panel was impressed with what she was saying. But when she was asked how she can relate her research to circumstances or situation in Pakistan, she wasn't able to talk about it. Dr. Ashar also talked about this idea that this is an exchange program. So they want to make sure that what you are learning in the US during your studies, it has application for Pakistani people and Pakistani society. So there should be this element that you should be considering. Then last is focus on how your studies and stay in the US will enhance cultural exchange between the US and Pakistan. I think Fulbright panel mostly asked this question that what is the application of knowledge that and what's the application of whatever you will be learning in the US. So you should be able to talk about that. And considering the fact that Fulbright is a cultural exchange program, I think they are going to ask you questions. Well, how, I mean, they are going to ask questions where you can talk about where you can talk about opportunities where you will be engaging in cultural exchange activities while you stay in the US. For example, becoming part of student body, becoming part of student senate body in the US. And similarly, when you come back to Pakistan, how you are planning to translate your learning and translate your knowledge in the US and Pakistani cultural settings. So these are a few points that I wanted to talk about related to Fulbright interview preparation. Yeah, the most important thing is just be yourself and do not fake anything. And yes, lastly, I must say that prepare a list of possible questions and prepare a list of possible answers as well, and then rehearse them. In my experience, this is really, really helpful, because Fulbright, during the interview, they give you marks. They do give you marks for your interpersonal skills. And while you are responding to the panel's questions, you want to be confident, coherent, and to the point in your answers. So these were a few things that I wanted to talk about, especially on the basis of my experience. If you have any questions, I'm very happy to answer them during the Q&A. And now I'll pass it over to Nazish, who is going to talk about Fulbright.
Yeah. Before Nazish, may I interject? I think Rizwanullah talks about arrange a session for the basics. Rizwanullah, we clarified in our email that that session was done a month ago by Fulbright advisors on the campus, and that is what was meant for all faculty, staff, and students. So we are sorry, this is not in basics of Fulbright. This is for tips. And Muhammad Mustafa has made some comments. They are very good. Please read through them. Is it realistically to switch your field for masters? I think you will have to show enough experience and knowledge to do that when you write your research proposal. If you're unable to be convincing for switching your field at that point in time, perhaps no. I do not know, Firasat and Sharoon, if switching of the field is allowed at that level?
Yeah, I would like to answer that question. Thank you, Dr. Mustafa. I'm glad you brought this up. About switching the field, well, I must say that shouldn't be a deterring factor. Fulbright usually doesn't discourage. So, but they want to see, especially in interview, they want to see your readiness level. Like, are you really ready to begin a PhD in your suggested field? So just to answer your question, that does Fulbright discourage? The answer is no. However, with that, they also want to make sure, and the panel usually will ask you question that, and they want to make sure that you have enough background knowledge of that field, and now you are ready to begin a PhD program in the US related to the field that you have suggested.
So over to Nazish. We are pushing you in the corner, Nazish, but I'm sure you'll be able to do the needful. Next slide, go ahead. Ji.
Assalamualaikum. Hello. So this is Nazish. I am from Mathematics Department. Am I audible, by the way?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I did avail this Fulbright Scholar Program for my postdoctoral fellowship in Princeton University in 2016. So the main requirement for Fulbright Scholar Program are more or less the same as Fulbright degree program, but a couple of the differences are that you don't have to submit the GRE for this Fulbright Scholar Program at any stage of application process, and you don't have to submit an English proficiency test at any stage of this program and application process. Even after you're selected for this grant, that you will not be required to submit any TOEFL or IELTS test. And another main difference here is that you have to submit research proposal statement, and it wouldn't be wrong to say that this is single-handedly the most important and significant component of your application. So you really, as Dr. Sharoon said, that you should be ready to spend ample amount of time to create this application. So I would just for the next few minutes, I'm going to talk about this research proposal statement. And by the way, for my case, I started working on my research proposal like 1 year before submission of my application. So it worked for my benefit. You should start seeking some connections with US universities where you think that there is some synergy between the work that you want to conduct in research and the work that you are yourself conducting at the moment. So if you could find that connection, and if you could develop that connection with the US university, so that would just go hugely in your favor. So when you have to prepare your research project statement, after writing down the title of your project, that should be reflective of what field you want to work in. You should be giving a brief background of your problem. So in the background of your problem, you should be writing down some references which would explain that what kind of work that is already being accomplished in the area that you want to work on, and what is something new and innovative that you will be bringing on. So I feel that one thing that worked for me, that in this background of the problem, if you could state something about sustainable developmental goals that is posted on UN website. If somehow your project or the problem that you want to work on is related to those developmental goals, then it would also go in your favor. Another important thing here is that after background of the problem is you have to write down the problem statement. So there are different ways to write this, but you could of course put a visual display to describe the problem, but mainly it should be in the descriptive form. And since I am from mathematics, so I know that mathematics people tend to put the mathematical jargons and symbols and the equations. So try not to put too many equations into this personal statement. You should know that your project would be sent to any referee for the evaluation, and that referee could not be from your research area or the field. So just state your problem in a way that is comprehensible to someone who is not from your field. And I know that I have seen some problem statements where people have instead of putting it in the descriptive form, they have put it in the form of the hierarchy, and that was also a good idea, and it was hugely favored and approved. That you could say that in this hierarchy, 3 or 4 steps or the stages have already been accomplished by other researchers, but this is something new on the 4th stage of this hierarchy that you are working on. So you could, of course, include these unique things in your problem statement. And another thing is, Dr. Sharon also emphasized on this, that you have to write down research objectives. It is important that you could divide this objectives part into two sections, like the general objectives, which would be related to the exchange program activities, which is in the center of this Fulbright program. And you could also write down the specific objectives related to your research area. Like you would be developing the framework of the problem, and then you would be studying it through computing mechanism, or you would be studying it through theoretical mechanism. So general objectives for the program activities, exchange program activities, and specific objectives related to your research. And this is really very important. This just reflects that you just know that what you are seeking through this, through working on this research proposal. And in the heart of this whole research project statement is the section of methodology. I would suggest that that you divide the section of method into different work packages, and relate each work package with one of the specific objective of the problem of this research proposal. This would just give them an idea that how determined you are, and you are not starting or working on something from the scratch. You have the clear idea that what you want to do. And another important thing is that do not include too many methods that you have picked up from your research area without having some knowledge of these methods. So the best thing that would work for you is to relate the methods that you have already used in your PhD research, and then relate it with something new that you want to try on. So dividing the section of a good idea. And then another thing is that you have to include some realistic time schedule of the work that you want to do. Like keep some time, you could divide this, it's the 12 months program. So you could divide the 12 months program and keep some time for just analyzing the problem that you want to work on. Keep some time for auditing some courses, some interesting courses that would help you advance in your research field, and keep some time for compiling the results at the end of the program. So in this way, you could just divide your time, and please do include this realistic time schedule. This would help you. This would actually help the committee to see that you are organized in your project, and for each stage you have dedicated some work to be done. And then you have to write down some outcomes, expected outcomes of your research. Please note that it's not something that you would be working precisely on this project. Of course, when you go to US, and you would develop some collaborations with the researchers there. So the direction or the dimension of your research, intended research, would totally be changed. But mentioning all of these things in the project makes you the one who has thoroughly studied, and the person, this is the person that who wants to who knows that what he or she wants to do. So write down some expected outcomes, and a very, very significant part of this proposal is how would you be evaluating and disseminating the knowledge that you have worked on. So you could just mention that you would be compiling your results in the form of the research paper, or when you come back to Pakistan, you would be designing a new course or something for your students, or you would be developing some industrial connection, or you would be working on the interface of the subject that you have worked on with other disciplines. So this all goes into the evaluation and dissemination part. And lastly, for your project statement, please do include some paragraph of the justification for residence in United States. This is, and also please know that this search proposal is the only thing, the first thing that will be picked up, and you will be shortlisted for the interview. So you have to justify that why do you want to go to US and conduct the research there. If your research proposal is something which you just can work in Pakistan and you don't have the strong convincing reason to go there, then maybe they will not also be, committee will not also be convinced. So you have to be convincing, but it could be that you want to use the lab resources or the computing infrastructure which is not available in Pakistan, and this would help you in advancing your research. So your reason to work in US will be strong and convincing. And again, I have highlighted this last part that English proficiency test is not required. Usually this is a conception, but it is not for Fulbright Scholar Program. And before I wind this up, there is important thing that you are not eligible to apply Fulbright Scholar Program within the 2 years of completion of your PhD. And also you are not eligible to apply for Fulbright Scholar Program if you have visited US within the past 5 years for some research visit or some academic pursuit. So, but if you have just visited as a tourist, then this is not applicable. You could definitely apply. So that's it from my side. If you have questions, I will be happy to answer.
Farasat, thank you so much, everyone. That was a very well-rounded approach. I do see Farhan. I think, Farhan, are you from science? He has, I have a background in finance and corporate sector, but I'm interested in sustainable management. I have a good reason, but I'm not sure if Fulbright will buy my story. You have to write a story that they buy. So I'm considering doing, Farasat, all of you, I would suggest the panel to look at that and see if you have any comments to make about this.
Thank you,
I'm
Farhan.
sorry.
I'd like to add.
I'm really sorry. We'll just quickly start the polling as well. Meanwhile, you can poll.
Yeah.
Okay.
While you poll, yes, please start the poll. And yes, Firasat, you first, then Sharoon, please to respond to this.
Thank you, Farhan, for asking this question. Like I said earlier, that changing your major or switching subject should not be a deterring factor for you if you want to apply for Fulbright application. And especially when you are developing your research, your study objectives and your personal statement, I think you should be able to demonstrate that you have enough background knowledge in that area, in your proposed area of study. And then later on in interview, the panel will be asking you questions to make sure that you have, I mean, you should be able to demonstrate that you are prepared, you are enough prepared to begin that area of study. Thank you.
Yeah, I like to add thanks, Dr. Farasa, for explaining it. I think she has said it very right. And I just want to count the frequency. Dr. Firasat used the word you in this, and I greatly appreciate that's what it is. It's you who has to make an impact. It's you who has to prepare yourself and find out. I mean, I'm a statistician. I know nothing about the marketing and the other diverse fields, and same is true with other people. But the people sitting in the interview panel, they are coming from, they're going to be coming from the diverse backgrounds, and they would be understanding what you're saying. But more importantly, I personally think that it's you who are an expert into it. So you should be someone who would be able to make your story more interesting, more convincing, and more selling to the people who are going to read your story. So yes, you can do that. That's perfectly all right. But spend enough time with it so that you find something that you think that, oh wow, this is like something. If I would say this will bring wow to everyone's mouth. So just say it, do it, but do it well. If you do it, yeah.
Thank you,
I
Sharon.
want to add something.
go ahead.
Nazif.
Somebody asked about the age limit. I remember that when I was called for an interview, there were like 15 people for shortlisted for the interview. There was one person who was 61 years old, so I don't think so there is any age limit. So you have a chance if you want to apply.
Ji Farasat, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what Dr. Sharoon said earlier. I just wanted to say that be eloquent in your writing and then in whatever you say in front of the interview panel. So just focus on your eloquence.
Yeah. Okay, dears, it seems like that was a very well-rounded session. I'm kind of disappointed that we had participants who had still not started writing their application. And I think that's not a recipe for success. If you really want to be somewhere, you have to start working on it much, much ahead of time. And Fulbright is very, very competitive. So thank you so much once again, all of you, for being here, and especially our panel. Thanks. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.